Today on The Lawyer You Know, let's find out if these pardons that Trump has been handing out is the way presidents normally do business, or did he do things a little different? On a previous episode, we told you about pardons and clemency and commutations and how they fit into the scheme of the Constitution, how a president can and can't use those powers. But let's take a look at the way Trump used those powers when he pardoned this last group the day before he left and the group maybe the month before he left, to see how he used that power. And we've explained to you how when you use that power, sometimes it's for politics, sometimes it's for friends, sometimes it's because those people deserve it when they went through the normal pardon process. But again, let's take a look. One of the most popular or well-known pardons he gave out was to Stephen Bannon. Stephen Bannon was a strategist for his campaign. He worked in the White House. He left, and in fact, when he left, it wasn't on very good terms with Trump. But this strategist, who was charged with wire fraud, money laundering, he bilked people out of $25 million on a Build the Wall fundraiser. He was pardoned by Trump because he was a fervent supporter of Trump, and again, that was all politics. Then we have Paul Erickson, charged with wire fraud and money laundering. Paul Erickson was a conservative with deep ties in the National Rifle Association. A strong supporter of Trump, he received a pardon. And then there are popular figures, well-known figures like, do you know who Bill Capri is? Do you know who Dwayne McCarter is? Probably not. But if you know Bill Capri as Kodak Black, he was a rapper, and if you know Dwayne Carter as Lil Wayne, another rapper, they both received pardons. They were convicted of gun charges, and they received pardons because as rappers, surprisingly, they came out strong and supported and endorsed Trump. And here now they get a pardon. And then we have Eric Brody. He was the Republican National Committee finance chairman, and he was a top fundraiser convicted of violating foreign lobbying laws. He got a pardon. And as we go through the list, you'll see different scenarios of how people get pardons. For instance, Alev Silat. He's an Israeli citizen that enticed an American to give military secrets to the Israeli government. Why would a person like that get a pardon? Well, apparently there was a phone call made between the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump, where he asked Trump to pardon the Israeli citizen, and Trump pardoned that Israeli citizen. Robert Zagrillo. You know the 2019 college scandal where bribes were paid so their children can get into college? He got a pardon. Wealthy and well-connected. Jamie Davidson got a commutation of a life sentence. Why did he do that? Now, this is one of those that actually went through pardon officials, and the prison officials actually supported this commutation because the witnesses recanted. He received a life sentence for the crime he committed. He served 29 years. While he was in prison, he tutored 1,000 prisoners who got their GED. He's one that went the traditional way and got a traditional pardon. Farrell Scott had his sentence commuted. That person got life in prison for possession and intent to distribute marijuana. And today, we're trying to legalize marijuana. According to Congress, they filed a bill to legalize it. Yet he was serving a life sentence. The sentence was so harsh that even the U.S. attorney that committed him asked Trump for the pardon, and he received a pardon. Eric Patton. This is one that went the traditional route. This one went through the pardon office of the Department of Justice. He was released 20 years ago, and he's been a community leader for 20 years, no problems, got married, raised a family, and he deserved a pardon because he lived an exemplary life after he was released. Michael Harris. Now, Michael Harris, you might know more as the company he ran. He ran a company called Death Row Records, and it was one of the first rap records labels in the country. Snoop Dogg went to the president and asked the president for this man's pardon, and he received a pardon from a 30-year sentence. Dr. Scott Harnon, convicted of fraud and misleading a caption in a press release. He received a pardon because this man developed a cure and treatment for kidney disease, and he was deserving of a pardon. And then we have Ken Clausen, cyber stalking. Now you ask, who is Ken Kurson? Well, Ken Kurson happens to be a good friend of the son-in-law of President Trump, Jared Kushner. That relationship caused it to be brought before the president, and the president pardoned him. And by the way, Jared Kushner's father was also a convicted felon, and he also received a pardon about a month before this, again, because of the recommendation of the president's son-in-law and their relationship. Kwame Kilpatrick received a pardon for racketeering. He got sentenced to 28 years in prison. How did he get that pardon? He was the former mayor of Detroit, and he had a lot of political connections, and they made it onto Trump's desk. So you may think, boy, Trump just laid out a lot of pardons here, and he really didn't. Only one president over the last 120 years has given fewer clemencies than President Trump, and that was George H.W. Bush. Everyone else had given more. For instance, FDR pardoned 2,819 prisoners, whereas Trump pardoned 143. Obama did 212. Clinton did 396. So this was not something that Trump did a lot of, but he did a lot of it right at the last day, which is also a tradition with presidents to do those pardons on the last day. And are these outrageous pardons? Well, Trump's beliefs have a lot to do with it, as we've seen. For instance, the Russia investigation by Mueller. Well, hey, did that result in a lot of pardons? It sure did. George Papadopoulos was convicted. Flynn was convicted, General Flynn, Roger Stone, Paul Manafort. All of those convictions pardoned by President Trump because, again, it was the Russia probe, and he just gutted all those prosecutions and convictions. And then we have the Blackwater Guards. In Iraq, they killed 14 civilians that they were convicted of. They were all pardoned because, again, Trump's belief in things are a little different in a war zone, perhaps, and therefore he pardoned those individuals. And we might think, are these, again, the most outrageous? I don't know. But if you look back on pardons, you look at Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon. He was president. He was being impeached. He resigned, and Gerald Ford pardoned him. You go back to Andrew Johnson, the president right after the Civil War, pardoned all Confederate soldiers. Jimmy Carter, a recent president, pardoned all draft dodgers in the Vietnam War. So these things happen on a regular basis. They happen because the presidents believe politically a certain way. They happen because there are friends. They happen because there are powerful senators. And sometimes they even happen because they're reviewed by the pardon attorney of the Department of Justice, and these people are deserving of getting their record clean because they led their lives. So I hope that this gave you kind of a broad overview of the way people get pardons and how, in some cases, influence, who your parents are, who you know, really does matter. So thank you for watching The Lawyer You Know. Hopefully you'll subscribe, hit the button below, and we'll see you next time.